The Sunday morning sun painted golden streaks across the cracked sidewalk as 12-year-old Marcus Williams carefully counted the coins in his worn sneaker. $3.47. It was all he had left from collecting cans the entire week, and he needed every penny to buy a small loaf of bread that would have to last him and his little sister until Tuesday. What Marcus didn't know was that this particular Sunday morning would change the course of his entire life through one simple act of kindness. Marcus lived with his 6-year-old sister Emma in a rundown apartment above Rodriguez's corner store, ever since their grandmother passed away 8 months ago. Their parents had been gone since Marcus was 7, and their grandmother had been their whole world. Now, with no other family and afraid of being separated in foster care, Marcus had convinced the social worker that his aunt was coming to take care of them. The truth was, there was no aunt, and Marcus was doing everything he could to keep them together while working odd jobs and collecting recyclables. This Sunday morning felt different somehow. Marcus had promised Emma he would bring back something special for breakfast, maybe even a small container of orange juice if he could find enough extra change on the street. As he walked toward the grocery store, his stomach growled loudly, reminding him that he had given Emma the last of their peanut butter sandwich the night before and had gone to bed hungry himself. The morning air was crisp and filled with the sound of church bells calling faithful congregants to worship. Marcus watched families dressed in their Sunday best walking past him, children laughing and parents chatting about their plans for the day. For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine what it would feel like to have someone taking care of him and Emma, to not constantly worry about rent money and food and whether someone would discover they were living alone. That's when he saw the elderly man struggling at the busy intersection of Maple and 3rd Street. The man appeared to be in his 80s, with silver hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He wore a navy blue suit that had seen better days but was clean and carefully pressed. In his weathered hands, he clutched a worn leather Bible and what looked like a small bouquet of daisies wrapped in newspaper. The old man stood at the corner, looking uncertainly at the busy street ahead. The traffic lights seemed to change too quickly for him to make it across safely, and Marcus could see the frustration and worry in his expression. Other pedestrians hurried past, too focused on their own destinations to notice the elderly gentleman's predicament. Without hesitation, Marcus approached the man with a gentle smile. He introduced himself and asked if he needed help crossing the street. The man's eyes lit up with gratitude as he explained that he was trying to reach St. Mary's Community Church across the busy intersection. His name was William Patterson, and he had been attending Sunday services there for over 50 years, ever since he moved to the neighborhood as a young husband and father. William explained that his eyesight wasn't what it used to be, and the busy morning traffic made him nervous about crossing alone. He mentioned that he was carrying flowers to place on the memorial garden dedicated to his late wife Margaret, who had passed away exactly 1 year ago that very day. It was their tradition to bring daisies to church every Sunday because they were Margaret's favorite flowers, and he wasn't about to break that tradition now. Marcus felt a deep connection to William's story, understanding the pain of losing someone who meant everything to you. He gently took William's arm and told him he would be honored to help him get to church safely. As they waited for the light to change, William shared stories about his late wife and how they had met at a church social 60 years ago. The walk across the street became so much more than just helping someone cross safely. William told Marcus about his life as a retired school teacher, about the students he had taught over the years, and how he and Margaret had never been blessed with children of their own. He spoke about how quiet his life had become since Margaret's passing, and how much he looked forward to Sundays at church because it was the one place where he still felt connected to his community and to her memory. As they reached the other side of the street, Marcus expected to say goodbye and continue on his way to the store. But something remarkable happened. William paused at the church steps and really looked at Marcus for the first time. He noticed the boy's thin frame, his clothes that were clean but clearly hand-me-downs, and the careful way Marcus handled the few crumpled dollar bills visible in his pocket. William's 70 years of teaching experience had given him an intuitive understanding of children, and he recognized something familiar in Marcus's eyes. It was the same look he had seen in countless students over the years who were struggling with challenges beyond their years. There was a maturity and responsibility in this young boy that spoke of hardship, but also an incredible kindness and strength of character. Instead of saying goodbye, William asked Marcus if he would like to join him for the church service. He explained that St. Mary's had a tradition of welcoming everyone, regardless of their circumstances, and that Pastor Johnson always said the church was meant to be a place of refuge and community for all who needed it. Marcus hesitated, thinking about Emma waiting at home and his mission to buy groceries. But there was something about William's gentle invitation and the warmth in his eyes that made Marcus feel safer than he had in months. He accepted the invitation, and together they climbed the steps to the beautiful old church with its stained glass windows and tall wooden doors. Inside, the church was filled with the soft murmur of conversation and the gentle sounds of the organ playing hymns. William introduced Marcus to several congregation members, and Marcus was struck by how genuinely welcoming everyone seemed. Pastor Johnson, a kind African-American man in his 50s, greeted Marcus warmly and told him he was always welcome at St. Mary's. During the service, Marcus found himself moved by the sense of community and belonging he felt in that sacred space. The hymns filled him with a peace he hadn't experienced since his grandmother's passing, and Pastor Johnson's sermon about looking out for one another resonated deeply with his own experiences of trying to care for Emma. After the service, William invited Marcus to join him in the memorial garden where he placed Margaret's daisies beside a small stone marker. As William said a quiet prayer, Marcus stood respectfully nearby, thinking about his own grandmother and wishing he had a special place to remember her. When William finished his moment of remembrance, he turned to Marcus with tears in his eyes. He said that Margaret would have loved Marcus, and that she always believed that angels appeared in our lives when we needed them most. William said that Marcus had been his angel that morning, not just by helping him cross the street, but by giving him the gift of companionship and reminding him that there was still kindness and goodness in the world. But then William did something that would change Marcus's life forever. He asked Marcus to tell him honestly about his situation at home. Perhaps it was the sacred setting, or William's gentle manner, or simply the desperate need to finally tell someone the truth, but Marcus found himself sharing everything. He told William about Emma, about their grandmother's death, about living alone and trying to keep them together, about the fear of being separated in foster care. William listened without judgment, his teacher's heart breaking for this brave young boy who was carrying such an enormous burden. When Marcus finished his story, William was quiet for a long moment. Then he took Marcus's hands in his own and made a promise that would transform both their lives. William explained that he had been praying for months for a purpose, for a way to honor Margaret's memory and fill the emptiness in his life. He said that meeting Marcus felt like an answer to those prayers. William offered to become Marcus and Emma's legal guardian, to give them the stable, loving home they deserved while allowing Marcus to finally be a child again instead of carrying the weight of adult responsibilities. The process took several months of legal paperwork, social worker visits, and court appearances, but William was determined to make it work. He hired a family lawyer with his savings and worked with the social services department to navigate the guardianship process. During this time, Marcus and Emma visited William's house regularly, and Emma quickly grew to love the gentle old man who read her stories and taught her to tend the small garden behind his house. William's modest two-bedroom house was transformed by the presence of children. He converted his study into a bedroom for Emma, complete with a bookshelf full of children's stories and a small desk where she could do her coloring. Marcus got the guest room, and William made sure it had a good desk for homework and shelves for the books he was encouraging Marcus to read. The three of them developed their own Sunday morning tradition. They would walk to church together, William no longer needing help crossing the street but treasuring the companionship. After church, they would visit Margaret's memorial garden where Emma would help place fresh flowers and Marcus would tell Margaret's stone marker about his week, just as William had taught him. Marcus's grades improved dramatically once he no longer had to worry about basic survival and could focus on being a student. William, drawing on his decades of teaching experience, helped both children with their homework and encouraged their natural curiosity about the world. Emma blossomed under the attention and care, her quiet personality becoming more outgoing and confident. The church community embraced their unconventional family wholeheartedly. Congregation members would often invite them for Sunday dinner, and the women's auxiliary made sure Marcus and Emma had appropriate clothes for the changing seasons. Pastor Johnson became a mentor to Marcus, helping him navigate the challenges of adolescence and encouraging his interest in community service. 2 years later, during the church's annual community service recognition ceremony, Pastor Johnson called Marcus to the front of the congregation. He spoke about the young man who had demonstrated that kindness has no age limit and that sometimes the smallest acts of compassion can create the greatest miracles. Marcus, now 14 and confident in ways he never could have imagined, stood before the congregation that had become his extended family. He spoke about that Sunday morning when he had simply wanted to help an elderly man cross the street safely, never dreaming that such a small act would lead to finding the family he and Emma had been longing for. William, sitting in the front pew with Emma beside him, wiped away tears of pride and joy. After the ceremony, he told Marcus and Emma that Margaret would have been so proud of the family they had become together. He said that love multiplies when it's shared, and that their presence in his life had brought him more happiness than he had ever thought possible after Margaret's death. Marcus's story spread throughout their community and eventually reached local media outlets who were inspired by the tale of how one small act of kindness had created a beautiful family. But for Marcus, William, and Emma, the real miracle wasn't the attention their story received. It was the simple joy of sitting around their dinner table each evening, sharing stories about their day and making plans for tomorrow. Today, Marcus is in college studying social work, inspired by his own experiences to help other children who find themselves in difficult circumstances. Emma is a bright 10-year-old who loves reading and gardening with her grandfather William. And William, now in his mid-80s, often tells people that the day Marcus helped him cross the street was the day his life truly began again. Their story reminds us that kindness creates connections that can transform lives in ways we never imagine. A simple act of helping someone cross a street safely became the foundation for a family built on love, mutual care, and the understanding that we all need each other in this journey of life. Marcus learned that day that when we extend our hand to help others, we often discover that we receive far more than we give. William learned that grief doesn't have to mean the end of joy, and that opening our hearts to others can fill spaces we thought would remain empty forever. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of the power of simple kindness, please hit that like button and subscribe to Pure Kindness Stories for more inspiring tales of ordinary people creating extraordinary moments of love and connection. Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that every act of kindness matters, no matter how small it might seem. Together, we can create a world where helping each other isn't just the right thing to do, but the foundation for miracles we never saw coming.